What's up, guys? I wanted to give you guys a quick preview of a game called Outchasers that's having its Kickstarter later on this year in the summer. This game is actually really cool. It's essentially a battle between two giant robots, and your goal is to use a certain currency called charges and the combination of equipment, which is armor and weapons, to be able to destroy your opponent's mechs, armor and weapons, to then attack directly and deal damage, which is the actual win condition of the game. So I'm going to break down all the quick little steps, and not really like a how to play, but just how the cards are designed in general, just so you guys get a really quick feel for it. So each mech needs a pilot, and there's 6 of them that are currently out. We have Hexia, who uses 1 charge, Chromia, we have Hagar. These are all 1 charges, and then there's Kahu, which is 2, Vey, which is 2, and Price, which is 2. I really like the art on these cards. I think it just looks really cool. It's kind of weirdly, it reminds me of like Guild Wars 2, where it has like that kind of watercolor, kind of smeary art, especially like you can see in Hexia over here. The way this bottom part is designed, it just looks really nice. And so the pilot is the way to spend your charges, and you get charges during different methods in the game. Your mech can produce it, and you get it if you don't do certain options during your turn. There will be like a link to the actual how play and all that stuff in the description, so I'm not really going to be describing every single play. But so your pilots are how you spend the charges, and then there's different ways to acquire charges. And essentially the pilot can't be attacked or anything like that. It's just kind of like a passive ability you get tied to that one pilot that then further affects the way your mech and the rest of the game plays out. For the mechs, we also have 6. There is Cinder, Vanguard Class C, Ray Strider, Farseer, Hammer Class, and Tara Axe. So these are all the mechs that are currently available. You can mix any mech with any single pilot, and they all have different ways of getting a charge. So this one's really simple because you don't need to know the game mechanics much for it. It says discard a card, gain a charge. And then, for example, if we were to match that with, let's say, Chromia, her 1 charge says once per turn, reshuffle 3 cards from your discard pile back into your deck and draw a card. So essentially you can discard a card to gain a charge and then spend it with Chromia to then draw a card. As long as kind of like if you guys are familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh, it's kind of like a small pot of avarice. So there's a lot of different ways to use the charges you acquire. It also can be used to do 1 additional action every turn, and it's just really versatile. Like, the amount of combinations you can mix with all these different mechs and all the different pilots is really insane. The next feature we have are cores. Cores are my favorite part of the game. They're essentially almost like how would I describe it? Like, imagine if they were in the middle of the game and either player can attain them by spending the charges to buy them. And when you buy them, it becomes somewhat of just this passive buff that affects all of your cards. And there's a different way to win, because you only put 5 charges in the beginning of the deck. You pretty much shuffle it and then only put 5 of them, so that there's different combinations you can have. It's not always going to be the same charges. And although you can draft decks and like build your decks your own, the default deck you can get, which is the one I have, you pretty much just can play with another friend, shuffle all the cards together, split it evenly, and then you each pick a pilot in the mech, and you could just play, which is really interesting too, because I feel like that's a really fun way to play. Sometimes it's not always about the competitive scene, not to say that this game won't have one, but it's nice to know that you can sometimes just casually play with a friend, or introduce them to the game that way and just have them have a lot of fun. So as you can see, some of these cards, for example, this says your Geo Strike gains +2. So that means any damage due with the Geo spell is +2. Well, I'll get into what like pyro spells and all those stuff are later on. But so defaultly there's 5 of these. The cost in the corners are just so both players can see them easily, and they're each bought by that many charges. So if you have 2 charges, instead of, let's say, using Chromia to reshuffle 3 and draw 1, you would use 2 to buy this one, and then you would defaultly have +2 strike damage on all of your Geo spells. So it's a really interesting way to really change the way the game works. You might be getting kind of hammered by someone that's rushing you, and then you're saving up your charges to just buy a bunch of these, and then Sorry, for example, this one says draw a second card at the start of your turn. So you would essentially just draw 2 cards in every turn. So yeah, it might not have been going in your favor, but now you're slowly plussing over your opponent. It's really interesting to see the different combination of these, especially when you're just playing at random and you might have a lot of strike with Pyro or Geo or all these different elements. So it's really, really cool. Lastly, we have the actual strikes or equipment. There's Pyro, Geo, and Electro. So these are the 3 elements, so it's pretty much fire, earth, and lightning. And the way this works is if you were to use a card, let's say this one says play an additional strike this turn. Normally you can only use 1 strike if during your turn, but if you spend a charge, you can do a second one. This keeps the game really at a nice pace instead of just being able to drop your whole hand to destroy everything. So let me give you a quick scenario. Let's say we have Chromia as your pilot, and your mech, and your mech is Cinder. And this says whenever you play a Pyro Strike, whenever your Pyro Strike destroys an equipment, gain a charge. The way these would be used is you get 4 equipments in the beginning of the game that you set from your hand. So let's say your hand has like 8 cards and this is the 4. You would set them here and here. These are your weapons, these are your armor. You can flip them at any time, but some of the cards say trap on them, and if you have a trap and they're attacked while face down, it'll trigger the trap. So essentially, let's say you flip this. You have an attack of, well, let me put it like this. Your attack is 3, and the damage is 4. It's a little hard to see, I'm sorry. And this is also a trap, which says equip, so if this is flipped, it'll equip. But so essentially now your mech can attack once per turn with the attack of 3. Or if you were to flip this one, you know, it would be with the attack of 5. But it only has 1 health, and the health's in the corner. So these are your weapons, and you can't be attacked as long as you have armor. So if your armor is destroyed, you would then be able, if both of them are destroyed, they can attack the mech directly, and then its health goes down, and that's how you lose. So if a card is played as a strike, it's used vertically. So this one doesn't have a specific effect as a strike, but it deals 4 damage. So if they were to do 4 damage towards this armor, which is 4, they would just both be destroyed. It would consume their only strike condition for that turn, so now all they can do is attack, but it would be destroyed. And then next turn you can of course equip another one here or like this, or you can also stack them. So let's say this does 3 damage and that's not enough, and you want some more. So you equip this 2, and now it attacks for 5. And if this is dealt damage, the attack will pierce. So let's say if they eventually get 8 damage on this in 1 turn, it'll destroy the 4, and then the 4 will see through and attack that 4 too. So you'll lose your entire weapon, and now you have to start building up weapons again. So with the combination of all these different effects, plus the charges you get every turn, plus the charges you can create with the mechs every turn, and then spend on all the cores, it has an insane amount of customization, and it makes the game really, really fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed my preview to Outchasers. I'm really excited for this game, and please make sure to follow my description and subscribe to the channel so you see more news coming out whenever I have it. I'll have a link to either the website of the game and all the how to play videos and stuff there is by the developers themselves in the description. So make sure to check that out too if I wasn't 100% clear on everything. I didn't want to have the video be like 30 minutes long of me explaining every single method and everything you can do. I just wanted to give you guys a really quick preview because what caught me was the art, and I love the animation of all of these. I love that the cards are so simple because it reminded me of the time when I was playing Hearthstone. That game is like the simplest game to play, and yet it could be so competitive, and I like to know that it's not something you have to invest an insane amount of time to read every single card or an insane amount of time to like memorize all these arts. I mean, all of these cards are just, you know, the art's all the same, the effects change, but you get used to it. I mean, you look at your hand, you know what you have to do, and it's nice. You don't have to worry about having, you know, the shiniest cards or anything like that. So it's nice to know that there's, you know, developers out there that aren't always just for the money, and they just really have this image of a game that they want to create, and they just want people to just play and enjoy it. So once again, if you guys have any questions or suggestions, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. Make sure to check out the description if I can't personally answer any of your questions, and subscribe to the channel for all my more Outchasers content, and I'll catch you guys next time.